I did.
I just submitted it. Submitted.
Okay.
Submitted it. Nathaniel.
Put my timer on?
Go.
Okay, I'm Nathaniel Kaneshige, and this is my MPX in 10 years presentation. I actually personally had a lot of trouble with the theme of in 10 years because I guess I just have a hard time solidifying long-term goals. But anyways, in 10 years, I have created an imaginary, unrealistic idea that I want to be an innovator. I want to help the world because right now it seems like we are in quite a bit of trouble, according to most economists. When I was young, I had this dream of mine to build and design a city because I felt that the city we currently have or this idea of a city we currently have is very unstructured, very inefficient and confusing. And because of it, you can see problems like gas prices rising because people are forced to take cars rather than taking the subway or walking to nearby locations that should be close, but they're actually quite far away. I would also like to in the future or I will tell stories. Telling stories is more like human nature, secondary human nature. We tell stories through everything we do. We tell stories through painting a picture, through designing a building. We always tell stories. It's who we are as humans. How does this relate to MPX? MPX, yeah, it was a very interesting program. I enjoyed it very much. It gave me a lot of free time to explore exactly what I like to do. I explored things like psychology, neurology, paleontology, biology, which we had to do in the first year, of course. For those of you who don't know and can't see, but MPX stands for Mid-Pacific Exploratory, and I take the exploratory part to heart. The program allowed me to explore myself, of course, as I said, but the way that it taught us information allowed us more time to explore to go into depth about what we want to know. My first artifact is my physics exhibit project. This is actually currently still in works, but I'm very passionately making this thing. Essentially, for this project, we have to make a physics exhibit that will be displayed in the outside in the Hartley area or inside the Weinberg. My physics exhibit is essentially a Shive wave generator, which is a physics demonstration model used to better explain certain concepts about transverse waves, which is quite troublesome for certain students. But this is going to be more directed towards the average person to just build up a sense of what waves are. So then if they do go into a physics course or they encounter some sort of problem in the future, they have a more general understanding of what it is. For this project, I had to do tons of research. There is no instructable in this thing. There is no pattern drawing. There is no detailed explanation of how it's made. And it's very interesting how it works because, as you can see, or as I can explain, the guy moves the very last rod, which creates a torsional wave, which creates this weird moving wave across the entire structure. This is actually still in the works for me, but researching it was quite fun, actually. I had to go on the internet, look through tons and tons of MIT, Harvard websites, looking for how they used the exhibit and their explanation of what it was, how it worked, because seemingly students are required to do that. I'm surprised, but they did, and because of that, I had to do a ton more research into material sciences and such, because I really do not understand how this thing works still, but it's cool to have, and I'm trying to make it, and hopefully you'll see it in the Hartley at some point being made. My next artifact is the Japanese Internment Injustice Project. This project was actually, it took a very long time, in my opinion, but it was fun. We made use of the time. Essentially, we took MPX is an exploratory class, and we took an investigative approach into discovering the injustice that is called the Japanese internment to World War II. Essentially, in World War II, the United States felt that Japanese were generally just a threat, or they misconceived that Japanese were just a threat, and they threw them all into internment camps where their assets were essentially dissolved, and they were left there for a year or two or four before being released into a senseless amount of nothing worthwhile for them to do. For this, we also did research again. It required a lot of critical thinking to fully comprehend what happened. We went to the Honolulu internment camp, which was, as many people don't know, an internment camp which was located in Hawaii, on Oahu. It was almost in the smack dab of the middle of the island, if I remember correctly, which I probably don't, but essentially what the government did is they bulldozed the entire thing. So there is this group of people called the JCCH, Japanese Cultural Community Association Center of Hawaii, and they set up this entire program for students to go there and take an investigative approach to understanding what happened. Since it was all bulldozed, it's essentially like an archaeological dig site. We had to create, we had to infer and create our own ideas about what happened based on what was left, which was essentially just a bunch of wooden planks on the ground, very shabbily built shacks, and barbed wire in random locations. Math and science and MPX. In MPX, we took a very interesting approach to math, to learning the math and science. As originally in the beginning of the year, we wanted this to be an exploratory class. It was like an exploration. We had to use open source materials, whatever was on the internet, we had to scavenge it up to learn the math and science requirements for the year. I'm particularly proud of what I did in my own time, though, because like these two pictures, this is a picture of a connectome, which is the brain, and essentially you used a very accurate MRI to construct this image of the brain, and this is the image of the internet. I know, it looks very interesting when you actually look at it, because you can see certain points where people start to collect, data starts to be sourced from, because everybody goes to that one place. But in time, I learned the parallels between the two while learning different things like psychology, neurology, and then such on and such forth. The water project. This project, I'm not sure how far we got with this so far, because from an outside point of view, it could look like we did nothing, but it could look like we did something. The project's basic initiative was to create, for the student to understand the worldwide water crisis that we have today. Currently, billions of children and billions of people are dying every day from absence of access to clean water. And because of that, we wanted to take part in this worldwide initiative to understand what's going on. So we started from our school. We did a water audit on our school campus, and this required us to contact administration for the water bills. We found out that our school actually spends $40,000 a month, or actually $20,000 a month, just to pay for the water bill, the water and sewage bill. After we found that out, we wanted to figure out what was the main source of the water leakage that caused such a large amount of water being used and not calculated for. But we found out that most of our a huge allocation of water is going out into the fields, baseball fields, hill, and everything that's being watered. So we took time to propose an idea for an automatic irrigation system, which would be tons more efficient than what they're currently doing, which is currently manually watering it while using golf carts, like taking the golf cart and dragging the sprinkler across the field, go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. which can waste a lot of water considering they're going to be doing this in the morning, during the day, and rarely to never in the afternoon as we have sports. If you water in the morning, it significantly increases the amount of water being absorbed into the ground, but if you water midday on the other hand, as much as 50% of the water can be wasted. And then the other issue is that the sewage bill. Essentially, the Board of Water Supply charges us for every gallon of water that we let go into the sewer because they have to pay for sewer maintenance fees and such. But the water going in the grass is essentially free. It does not get charged for sewage and for being sent to the sewer. But the issue is that we don't calculate for that. We don't have sensors, we don't have anything calculating how much water we're using on the fields. So we also proposed other ideas like ultrasonic flow meters and flow meters essentially to be installed to calculate how much water is being used. Mr. Howlett, the head of maintenance, is thinking of ideas and he seems very interested in it. So we're not sure exactly how much of an impact we had on him. The Green Wall project, this started actually last school year in the second semester, I believe. The central goal of the project is to understand sustainability through design. We went to places like Mari's Garden, which was in the world's largest aquaponics system, I believe, and we actually interviewed them, talked to them. They walked us around the entire place and taught us about how they were creating sustainably designed systems for plants. Currently we're trying, or a different team is trying to make this, which is a very nice green garden wall, which is supposed to significantly reduce noise, produce herbs, lettuce, and other stuff. Thank you.
Questions for Nathaniel?
So when you were talking about the math and science, and you said you did a lot of things on your own, and you were talking about biology and psychology and whatever other, was it to enhance your learning of what you wanted to learn, or was it to enhance your learning of what you thought was needed for math and science?
Actually, that's where we go back to exploratory. The exploratory in MPX is largely what I took to heart. I essentially explored. It was more so part of curiosity, but I often, more than not, applied it to my real learning, as in, I actually talked about it in the essays I wrote for humanities, and I used it in my science classes as a discussion piece for when we needed new ideas.
Which group were you with last year as a freshman? Were you with the redesigning the library, or were you with the garden? Do you remember?
I was a part of the Green Wall team, but I helped out a lot with the library project. I offered them sources of information, different designs and such for libraries that I found interesting.
Do you think that there was going to be a garden planted by the Hula studio? Do you think that's ever going to?
I'm not sure. As we went through MPX, a lot of projects were reallocated and such.
Mm-hmm.
We redistributed it. Essentially, I believe Sterling is taking part of that now, and he talked to the Hula teacher, and he seems very interested in it. So I think he's just, the Hula teacher and Sterling are just going to just work on it together.
At the beginning, you talked about how in the future, one of the things you hope to be is an innovator. So could you connect one of the artifacts you shared with us with how that's going to help you be an innovator? Any artifact you'd like?
I believe the water project is the most significantly tough because I want to be an innovator on a worldwide scale, and the water project offered me a problem on a worldwide scale. So that's just the connection.
You know, Nathaniel, I remember when you were a freshman.